Help me welcome our moderator for this session. The Uganda's portfolio exceeds $10 billion US. Before I welcome him, I'm going to mention that with ambitious plans to double generation capacity by 2040, and that is with hydrocarbons and untapped renewables. The country is emerging as a prime investment hub. So to moderate this session, we have Tony Otoa. He's the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer at Uganda National Oil Company Limited, and he will be calling his panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a warm round of applause. That is Tony Otoa. Thank you. You have the floor.
Invest in Uganda. Uganda's energy sector is at a turning point in 2025 as the country prepares to launch its first commercial oil production while rapidly expanding renewable capacity. Oil production from the Tilenga and Kingfisher fields in the Lake Albert Basin is set to begin within the next 2 years, targeting 230,000 barrels per day. The Lake Albert Development Project, led by Total Energies and CNOOC alongside the African Crude Oil Pipeline, marks a historic shift in Uganda's role as an energy producer. At the same time, Uganda is advancing clean energy. A landmark 100-megawatt solar plus storage project in Nakaseke district has been approved. The first phase of a 1-gigawatt rollout, while the commissioning of the 600-megawatt Karuma and 6.6-megawatt Nyangak 3 hydropower plants are boosting generation capacity. Yet challenges remain, with national electricity access at just 28%, weak transmission infrastructure, and a strained financial system. Uganda is pursuing regulatory reforms, innovative financing, and targeting subsidies to drive universal access, energy security, and long-term sustainability.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Uganda session. My name is Tony Otoa, and I'll be supporting with this session. But before we begin, allow me to have the panelists come onto the stage. This morning, we will be honored to have amazing panelists who are going to speak about Uganda, speak about policy, but also speak about what it means to invest, but more importantly, what opportunities are there. So, before I begin, allow me to introduce to you the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, Ms. Irene Bateebe. As she comes on the stage, I'll just introduce her. She is the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. She's worked in the ministry for over 18 years in the areas of energy, mining, and petroleum, and she handles the planning and development of infrastructure for the petroleum industry in Uganda, including pipelines, the oil refinery, storage facilities. She has led negotiations for key agreements on the East African crude oil pipeline and the oil refinery, and today she'll be sharing with us more about the policy part of things. Welcome, Irene. And joining me also on the stage is Mr. or Dr. Engineer Dr. Mugerwa. Dr. Mugerwa is a chemical engineer with 36 years of technical and management experience. He is a global expert in the renewable energy area. His expertise includes executive leadership, ESG process engineering, project management, project controls, procurement safety, and he also handles the responsibility of General Manager, the Uganda Refinery Holdings Company. Welcome, Doctor. To join us also on the stage is Mr. Phillips Obita. Mr. Phillips Obita is the General Manager, Upstream at the Uganda National Oil Company. He has 25 years of experience in petroleum exploration and development operations. And interestingly about him, he started his career over 26 years ago. He served as a senior geophysicist and later on as a principal geophysicist at the Ministry of Energy. And he is, or at that time, he was responsible for managing the PS, or the production sharing contracts operated by Tullow Uganda. Welcome, Mr. Phillips. And finally, to join us on the stage is Mr. Humphrey Asiimwe. Mr. Humphrey Asiimwe is the Chief Executive of the Uganda Chamber of Energy and Minerals in Uganda. What the Uganda Chamber stands for is a non-profit, member-based voluntary organization that represents the interests of the private sector players in the energy and extractives sector in Uganda. Welcome, Humphrey. So before we begin, I just thought it would be prudent for us to listen to our mother ministry. And of course, by doing that, I would like to introduce to you, or allow for Madam PS to open the session for us.
Thank you very much, Tony. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have you this morning for the session on everything about Uganda. Uganda is indeed a gemstone, like Winston Churchill referred to it, the pearl of Africa. And we are seeing that even in our energy and petroleum subsector, where we are poised to become the East Africa region's energy hub. We are seeing and experiencing a season of enormous activity in Uganda that is underpinned by, of course, our petroleum resources, where we've discovered 6.5 billion barrels of standard oil initially in place, of which 1.4 billion barrels is recoverable. And in order to commercialize these resources, we are working on two critical projects: an East Africa crude oil pipeline that will deliver a portion of that crude oil to the port of Tanga through Tanzania for onward marketing overseas, but also a local oil refinery of 60,000 barrels per day that will serve the market in Uganda, but also our immediate neighbors. Now, Uganda is positioned in the hinterland of the East Africa region. That comes with a number of benefits. We are surrounded by countries including Kenya, Tanzania to the south, South Sudan to the north, DRC Congo to the east, but also Rwanda and Burundi to the southwest. What does this mean? That means when you invest in Uganda, you then have a springboard to access the regional market of about 300 million people, and that way you're able to trade across the region. Now, as the country, apart from the petroleum sector that we are advancing, including also gas, because we do boast of some gas, about 500 billion cubic feet, there is a lot we are doing in the energy portfolio, conventional energy. Uganda today is largely powered by renewable energy, 83% hydropower, and the bulk of it renewable, including solar, but also biogas cogeneration. We are currently generating about 2,052 megawatts, but we have set an ambitious plan to diversify our energy mix by 2040 and grow our generation capacity to 52,000 megawatts. That sounds a major leapfrog. Why? Uganda has an ambitious plan for industrialization, but also we are currently working on developing our infrastructure, including a railway system, the standard gauge railway. A growing population, currently at 46 million Ugandans, but projected to grow. So the energy portfolio will be diversified to bring on board all our renewable energy resources, including, of course, again, hydropower, but also geothermal, more solar at about 10,000 megawatts out of that 52,000 megawatts projected, and of course, nuclear energy. I know some people don't like that conversation, but it's a matter of energy security. And tying in with the Honorable Minister from Ghana, the energy transition must also catapult our energy security as the region, but also as a continent. So there are enormous opportunities on the energy side equally that we will discuss: geothermal, hydropower, solar, nuclear, but also peat and additional thermal gas to power. So Tony Otoa, we are delighted to be here, and we look forward to an invigorating conversation.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam PS. And I think you can see clearly Uganda is open for business. But let me start off the panel by talking to Dr. Michael here. Dr. Michael, what is the current status of the refinery? I mean, people have waited for this grand story, and it's been one of the recurring topics at every conference that we've been to in the last 4 years. What's the status, and what are the timelines? What timelines are we looking at?
Well, the status of the refinery project, Uganda's refinery project, is currently we have it fully funded. We are working on the basis of 100% equity funding. We decided to abandon project finance as a route. We felt the financing environment was too hostile for our refinery project, so we ended up going for an equity option, which is 40% by government of Uganda through the Uganda National Oil Company and 60% with our colleagues or our brothers and sisters in the Emirates. So we have Emirati investors who are covering the other 60%. Right now we have completed the refinery configuration studies. So we are certain that we're going to be building a RFCC, a residue fluid catalytic cracking configuration, which will essentially give us the opportunity to generate petrochemical feedstocks, and as well as, of course, petrol, diesel, gas, and some fuel oil, and also jet fuel. So we've entered into basic engineering. We're expecting roughly 1 year of activity up to an FID point for our investor partners. And at that point, we will then commence the EPC. So the EPC will last approximately 3 years, and we expect the refinery to be up and running in around about fourth quarter 2029 or early 2030. That is the timing we have in mind. The project itself is not just the project that we have to focus on. We also have to look at the infrastructure around the project, and we're working with various ministries, Ministry of Works and Transport to work on the road infrastructure. We're working on water infrastructure that needs to supply the refinery area. We're also working on high voltage power. So we're getting a high voltage substation that's currently being installed in the Kabalega Industrial Park, which is right next to the refinery. So we'll have about 240 megawatts of power available for the refinery, but also for petrochemical and other investors in the industrial park. The refinery is surrounded, we have a heavy industry area inside the industrial park, but then we have light, medium industry as well. And so all that, the infrastructure I've described, is also to cater for those investors in the downstream, as well as the input value chain for the refinery project. So we are moving, and we're excited to be moving. We really want to add value in country, but we're also seeing the markets, by the way, for the products will be not just Uganda. We're also looking at our neighbors, Eastern DRC, Southern Sudan, Northern Tanzania will also be benefiting from the products from this refinery.
Right, so we see a refinery being a regional project, something that is going to make, bring value to the region. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. We'll now move to Phillips. Phillips, you're the general manager Upstream. And for a long time, UNOC has just really been around, it's been a non-operating partner for a long time. This time around, UNOC has Kasurban. What does that mean for UNOC, but also what does that mean for any investor in this room?
Thank you very much. Of course, as a national oil company, we have commercial participating interest in the oil field development projects, the Tilenga and Kingfisher, at 15%. And that gives us a working resource base of 150 million barrels. Now, of course, we have also invested heavily in the midstream projects, especially the crude oil pipeline project, the ECOP, that is really a vehicle for commercializing the resources that we have in the upstream. But like Dr. Michael said, we're also investing in the refinery at 40%. Now, certainly, we are cognizant of the fact that oil and gas is a finite resource, and as we speak now, the Tilenga and Kingfisher will start production about July next year. And so once we commence production, our resources will begin to get depleted. And so as a national company, we took the strategic decision to begin to explore for new oil and gas resource as a way of replacing the reserves that we have currently. And so, yes, we ventured into petroleum exploration. We did participate in the second licensing round that the country ran. And it was a very competitive process. We participated competitively with the other private sector players, and we were awarded a petroleum exploration, development, and production license in the early 2003, February specifically. So for us as a national company, we look at it from strategically three main angles. One is to commence that process of replacing our oil and gas reserves in order to be sustainable, especially given the heavy investment that we have done in the midstream projects. The other second key strategic reason for that, of course, is national capacity development. And certainly we take that as an opportunity for us as a national company and as a country to explore avenues of transferring knowledge, skills, and technology from the international oil and gas players and other industry players into the country, so that we are also able to undertake some of these exploration work as well as oil field development ourselves as a country. And then, of course, the third key perspective that we look at to venture into petroleum exploration is the aspect of the aspect of beginning to create a resource in the country, capacity, resource in the country, to be able to explore for oil and gas and develop oil fields. So we look at it from that angle, and we are very glad that we have started that journey very well. And as we speak now, we are undertaking some nominal initial petroleum exploration activities, which I'll speak to a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phillips. I'll just call up to our private sector guy, because I believe there's so many private sector players in the room, and many of them must be wondering, how easy is it to get into Uganda? And as a chamber, Humphrey, you have done so much in promoting, but also lobbying government for a favorable environment when it comes to investing in Uganda. From the private sector point of view, why should anyone invest in Uganda's energy sector?
Thank you very much, Tony. If not Uganda, then where else? And I'll give you the reasons why. First and foremost, Uganda is a very stable country, very stable politically, very peaceful country, and you can rest assured that your investment in the country is safe. And from the private sector players that we do represent as the Chamber of Energy and Minerals, this is something that they do hold dear. In addition to that, in Uganda, once you have invested in the country and you're bringing in any kind of equipment, the import tax is zero rated. And so you can bring in all your equipment and all that you need at zero tax in order for you to set up and get on with the work. We also have a favorable tax regime when it comes to income tax. For example, for the first 10 years of operation in Uganda, you're assured of a tax break, because the idea is to catalyze investment, get investors coming in and creating jobs, creating technology transfer and skills transfer. So with those 10 years where you are assured of a tax holiday, that is cash flow that is very necessary for you to continue running your business. Uganda is also one of the youngest nations on earth. 77% of Ugandans are below the age of 30. So you are assured of a workforce that is ready and available. And the education system in Uganda is versatile and growing, cutting edge, to be able to get to the place where you can have young people within the country that are trained, that you can ensure skills transfer to them, and you have a local workforce. In addition, in this day and age of ESG, as mentioned by the Permanent Secretary earlier on, 83% of our energy source is hydro. It's clean energy. So you're assured that your energy that you're going to be using in your operations is clean, and that goes very well to your ESG considerations and the compliances. So there is no better place to invest than in Uganda, because you're assured that you'll have a return of investment, and the companies that have come through in Uganda at various levels have gotten their money back. One of the beauty about the energy sector is we are keen to see that it catalyzes other sectors, that the oil and gas sector does support the tourism and hospitality industry, the logistics industry, the manufacturing and all the others, because all these do work together to make sure that the energy sector does grow. And so whichever company you're from, whichever company that is interested in Uganda, whether it is, hospitality, manufacturing, it is in logistics, or any others vertical, it can even be agriculture, because all these projects do need food. They are assured of a market, and as mentioned earlier, it's not just the Ugandan market, but the whole East Africa. There is over 300 million people. So it's the best place to invest.
Fantastic. Uganda being a favorable or favorite destination to invest. Thank you so much. But now that brings us to something really critical. I mean, you've talked about the flowery kind of situation that we have in Uganda. But PS, when we talk about, or when you look at the private, public-private partnerships that play or the play in Uganda, where and how can international investors engage effectively? Humphrey has spoken about the nice rosy part. Michael has spoken about the opportunities or the availability of opportunities. Where or how do we play in that area?
Thank you, Tony. As a country, Uganda, we are keen to support private sector invest in the country. And we have worked to ensure that we put in place the requisite legal and regulatory framework so that the investors are able to invest with certainty and predictability. So when it comes to support on the private sector side, I'll start with the petroleum sector. We've already seen a number of private sector come into the country: Total Energies, China National Offshore Oil Corporation out of China, and a few others out of Australia. What that speaks, it speaks to a de-risked investment. By us attracting some of the majors, that speaks to the fact that the country has provided an enabling environment. So how do we do it as we partner with the private sector? Besides putting in place the robust legal and regulatory framework, we are keen to ensure that the challenges and the risks that the private sector faces are addressed in a timely way. And which are those? Number one of the key aspects that we support the private sector on critically is on the side of land acquisition. Land acquisition, and for Uganda, is a very unique and complex matter because land belongs to the people. So we walk the journey with the private sector to ensure that they are supported to acquire all approvals for purposes of land acquisition. We have just done that for the East Africa crude oil pipeline, where on the Ugandan side, out of the 1,443 kilometers of pipeline length, we've supported Total Energies, UNOC, and of course UNOC, now speaking as the government. We've supported them to acquire the entire portion on the Ugandan side of 292 kilometers and in record time. And it has not in any way hindered the project progress. So we are keen to support on issues of land acquisition, but two, we are aware that the permitting process can become an encumbrance. So we continue to streamline our permitting and approval processes for a number of project authorizations. Many of these we are digitizing. We are ensuring our licensing processes are done on different digital platforms, be it energy or petroleum. That way, then the investor is assured of a seamless process for licensing and permitting. The other one that we are keen to do to de-risk these projects is, again, ensuring that we are packaging bankable projects. So we are undertaking feasibility studies, but also doing significant data acquisition. So by the time you come in as private sector to start any conversation with the government, we avail most of the information and data that you require to make your investment decision. The other one that Humphrey has already elaborated on, Uganda is a safe and secure investment destination. So we are keen as the government to ensure that that is maintained for the long haul. That is a key aspect. Now, in structuring these private-public partnerships, we are keen then to work with the investor. We know the advantages that the investors are bringing on board on the financing side, but also technology and expertise. So we are keen to work with them so that we leverage from those opportunities while supporting them, including on community engagements. We support the investors to acquire a social license with the communities where they operate. So we work with them to structure corporate social responsibility that is responsive to the community needs, but also engaging the communities to not raise their expectations beyond what the investor can manage. Sometimes the investor is treated as the government. So we come in as the government to clarify to the communities where the operations are, to realize that the government remains responsible for public service delivery, and it's not the investor's responsibility to build healthcare facilities, schools, etc. So ours is a very interactive process to support the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam PS. Michael,
Yes.
I'll come back to you now. We've talked about creating a favorable condition for public-private partnerships. Humphrey has talked about the opportunities for or how great the landscape is. What specific investment opportunities does the refinery project have for any investor in this room? Because it's going to be the big deal over the next 3 years. What specific investment opportunities are there?
So what the refinery project is doing for us is it's opening up the value addition opportunities that we see within the oil and gas value chain. So specifically, we're looking at petrochemicals, particularly C3, so propylene-based petrochemicals, because we believe that we have the market. One example is we use a lot of polypropylene in country, in region, that's used in raffia manufacture. So, you know, the bags that are used to transport agricultural goods all across the region. So we believe that that's an excellent market investment opportunity. But we're also looking at C4 petrochemicals, so butene 1, butene 2 petro. We have fertilizer discussions going on, but these are so this is nitrogen-based fertilizers. So that's another opportunity, again, to support agriculture, our agricultural sector. We're also exploring the production of aviation gasoline, which is a high-octane gasoline that will be, in addition to what we plan to produce, we'll be looking at production of that. That would support the whole mining sector, for example, in Eastern DRC, that uses aircraft to support their operations. We're looking also at supporting Uganda Airlines with low-carbon aviation fuels, so LCAF and sustainable aviation fuels. So that's another investment opportunity that's outside of the basic project. And if you're looking at the whole ecosystem, we're looking at lifting, we're looking at logistics, mechanical workshops, both rotating, static. There's electrical opportunities, there's instrumentation opportunities, there's many different opportunities that we see in the input value chain for refinery, but also these petrochemical industries. So we're quite excited. We've already, I think, we're in discussions with approximately 15 different investors in the industrial park. And of course, the anchor project for the industrial park is the refinery project, so we are working to deliver that as well.
So maybe if you could just, tell us how much we're looking at in terms of investment in the whole project.
Yeah, so the investment in the refinery project, we're estimating will be between $3 and $4 billion. But if we start looking at the petrochemical ecosystem, that probably will add at least another $1 to $2 billion of investment. I think I should just add that when you have such large projects inserting themselves in an economy that's roughly 10 times the size, you really need to be looking carefully at all the infrastructure constraints around the project. So physical infrastructure, but also human capital that we need to develop for the project.
No, thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much for that. Phillips, I'll come back to you now. You know, just looking at how we are progressing on the refinery, this is a fantastic story. We're looking at amazing money to be spent. When we talk about Kasturban, which is now your ultimate block at the moment, what investment opportunities do you believe Uganda offers in the upstream oil and gas sector? You know, something that makes us peculiar, I mean, unique in the African context when it comes to Kasturban.
Thank you. I think, like I said, I'll start off with Telenga and Kingfisher, where we are already at the development phase, and we're expecting first oil next year. And because of that, most of the contracts for EPC drilling have been awarded already. Although there are still opportunities for subcontracts with the main contractors, especially in areas of logistics and other support services. And it's in the Telenga and Kingfisher where we intend to produce 2P reserves of about 1 billion barrels. And like I pointed out earlier, the gross working interest reserve for UNOC could be about 150 million. So, but having said that, we have 5 exploration blocks that are still under exploration by various companies, including UNOC, the Kasturban block that you indicated, and certainly that attracts a lot of other investment opportunities. Yeah. And so for those specifically for those exploration blocks, we are looking out for services, exploration and production services, including drilling services, covering right from integrated drilling services to specific drilling services like mud logging, wireline logging, rig services and all this. We also have opportunities in subsurface studies. We are doing a lot of geological, geophysical, geochemical studies in these exploration blocks. And so we, even as we speak now, as a national company, we are currently undertaking a 2D seismic survey that will run up to about end of November. And so seismic services are one of the other areas of investment opportunities that we have in the country. The other one, of course, is all the support services that go around trying to support drilling operations, support seismic services like logistics, clearing and forwarding, accommodation, and hotel services. So there's still a vast opportunities of services, right. But specifically for us as a national company, I also wanted to underscore that we are in the process of acquiring a joint venture partner to come and work with us and explore for oil and gas in the Kasturban contract area. We did send out the expression of interest notice in July, 8th of July, and the expression of notice closed on 8th of August, and we are now in the process of evaluating the expression of interest, and we'll be receiving the joint venture proposals from companies that would have qualified from that expression of interest process. So there is a vast opportunity for investment, largely focused around drilling, the EPC subcontracts, and the exploration activities around subsurface studies, seismic, and logistics services. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Phillips. That just ties into what I want to ask you, Humphrey. You know, he's talked about all of these opportunities. I mean, when we think about the landscape in the next 5 years, looking forward, what are the primary opportunities and strategic priorities for Uganda's energy sector over the next 5 to 10 years? Because this is a very critical sector for the country. We believe it's going to support in the development and the growth of the economy over the next few years. What are those priority areas you think are important for the private sector?
So I think it's important to underscore the fact that government has put a specific emphasis on this sector and is listening, is able to adjust whenever there is anything that the private sector requires, for example, in terms of putting in place a policy around emerging issues. So I think that it's very important to have that clearly. So within the next 5-10 years, what you can definitely expect is 4 for example, within Uganda, our education system is more alive to the fact that all these are coming in, investors are coming into the country and requiring deliberate skill sets. And while that is, true, they are adjusting curricula to make sure that they are providing those skill sets. Companies in Uganda that are ready to get into joint ventures and, OB representatives of international firms that are not able to come into the country directly and represent them in the country so that their services and their goods can be able to service this sector. The fact also that the growth in energy from the 2,054 megawatts to the 52,000 megawatts that we are looking to grow to as a country is definitely ensuring that there is stable power for industrial growth. There is a market that is available, and that market that is available is something that any investor will be keen on. As a country, for example, we've had a very stable currency over the last number of years, over 10 years and counting. And with a stable currency, you can expect that you're not, the shocks won't be as would be if you didn't have any kind of predictability. So your investment is predictable. So the next 5-10 years, we are expecting that even as investment does come in, even as a country, we are ready and we are, receiving any investor, working together to make sure that they make money in Uganda like they are expecting. You can rest assured that we continue to be available to support. From the Chamber's point of view, where we sit between government and private sector, any emerging issues that do come up that require any policy interventions, we are quick to engage and make sure that environment is made clear for the investor. So it's basically all smooth sailing, except if there are any things that we did not expect come through, we're ready to tackle them as a country.
Thank you very much, Humphrey. We're coming to the last lap of this amazing conversation, and I hope you're really enjoying these very interesting details about Uganda. But I'll just come to a very critical conversation that has been, I think, part of this convention or conference. Drill, baby, drill. And, for many years, the Ugandan projects have been suffering, from a lot of activism going against it, especially ECOP. Madam PS, how is Uganda balancing its investment in the hydrocarbons with its ambitious renewable energy targets? Because again, our goal is to ensure sustainability by 2040. How are we doing it as a country?
Thank you very much, Tony. And beyond drill, baby, drill, it's now sign, baby, sign. So sign as many deals as can be. So Uganda has been very deliberate when it comes to our energy transition plan and strategy, and indeed we were deliberate to put in place a specific energy transition plan supported by the International Energy Agency. Now, the way we look at it as a country, again, a just energy transition must support the energy security of the country. So we are looking at the oil and gas sector to support us in our endeavors to drive the renewable energy development agenda. We have programmed through the oil and gas sector to earn about $2 billion per year from the oil and gas project. And what will this do? This is going to support us unlock our new hydropower plants, but also geothermal and other endeavors, including nuclear. So in order for us to ensure the sustainability of the oil and gas sector and minimize the impacts of the sector, we have worked with the oil and gas companies in the country, Total Energies, UNOC, to ensure that the projects are developed in a manner to reduce the carbon footprint of the projects. And indeed, that has been attested to through the different environmental impact assessments we worked on with them, approved by the National Authority in charge of environment. We have been deliberate in our laws to ensure that we manage gas flaring and venting. We do not allow for venting of gas from our oil and gas operations, but also we only accept minimum flaring for purposes of the safety of the operations of the different facilities. So we have managed that on the side of the hydrocarbons. We've been keen to ensure that our oil and gas facilities are powered by clean energy, including using part of the gas that will be produced alongside the petroleum will be used to power the central processing facilities for the oil and gas project. And then for the crude oil pipeline running 1,443 kilometers from Uganda through Tanzania to the port of Tanga, we have ensured that we provide for solarization. So we are using clean energy to power the East Africa crude oil pipeline beyond the point of dispatch in Uganda. So for us, the energy transition indeed must address aspects of energy security. On the other side of energy, we need to deploy about $5 billion on the access side, just distribution and last mile connectivity. The government must find this money. I know we are leveraging private sector investment, but that has to be underpinned by, of course, government funding. And on the concessional financing side, we are seeing reduction in concessional financing. Our partners, the World Bank, Africa Development Bank, they are scaling down on the financing they've been providing to the governments. So that means the government has to step up. How do we step up? By ensuring that we deploy these resources in a sustainable manner to ensure that they benefit the generation today and the generations to come. So it's a two-edged sword.
Two-edged sword with one mission.
It. Yes.
With one mission, ending energy poverty at a certain time.
Yeah.
So before we end, because we have about 3 minutes, I just want to just give each and every one of you here, begin with you, Dr. Michael, then I'll go with Humphrey and Phillips, 30 seconds parting shot, and then finally end with the permanent secretary.
Yeah, I think from an investment perspective, what I wanted to highlight is that Uganda currently is experiencing very high growth rates. We're around 6.5% this year. We're expecting the growth rate of the economy in 2027, once we get into full oil production, to be perhaps around 10%. And what does that mean in terms of demand for example, petroleum products? We're already seeing year-on-year increases between this year and last year, for example, of somewhere around between 10 and 15% growth rate, depending on the products. So 10% for diesel, 15% year-on-year growth for petrol. And so that it just reflects the opportunities in the economy, that we have so much growth coming even before we're in oil production. So you can imagine, once we're in oil production, once we get into the downstream, the petrochemicals, the fertilizers, I think it should become a very attractive destination for investment. And one last point, we've sized our refinery at 60,000 barrels per day, which roughly will basically meet current market needs. But we're already seeing that by 2035, we can double the capacity of our refinery. What we need to do is work on additional sources of crude oil, and that's the work that Phillips is doing and his team. So that's I think is an important consideration, that we are looking at growing to being part of the very ambitious targets we have for GDP growth for the country.
Thank you very much. Humphrey, 30 seconds.
So we have success stories in Uganda of companies that have invested in Uganda. The Total is in Uganda, China National Offshore Oil Company is also in Uganda, SLB and a number of others. We represent private sector players that are saying this is an investment destination you can't afford to miss. The regulatory environment is favorable for investment. The government is listening and able to engage and make sure that investors get their return on investment. It's a stable economy, very peaceful country, with the ambitious plans around energy scaling up. Uganda is indeed the place to invest in.
Thank you very much, Humphrey. Phillips, your parting shot?
So, as a national company, we are a very healthy company, and it's a very good company to do business with because our outlook is to be a $10 billion company in the next 15 or 20 years over the life of the current project. So we're a very healthy company to work with. And in the exploration front, there are a lot of investment opportunities that you can come and work with us on. And specifically for the Kasulbani contract area that we've been discussing, we have a production sharing agreement that has a 6-year exploration period, 222, that runs up to about February 2029. And we expect to drill our first exploratory well towards the end of next year, 2026, and the second exploratory well towards in 2027. So we invite you to come and work with us in the different business lines that you are engaged in. And we do think that we have a very good future in the energy space, not only in Uganda, but in Africa generally.
Thank you very much, Phillips, and over to you, PS.
Thank you, our distinguished guests. Thank you for listening in. Uganda remains your most favorable destination for investment. The investments in energy and petroleum and even mining have been de-risked. And with petroleum already having attracted about $4 billion in foreign direct investment, with another about 16 to go, $16 billion to cover, including the oil refinery, a natural gas pipeline from Tanzania feeding back into Uganda. The opportunities are enormous. So we invite you for further discussions. Please invest in Uganda. We have a strong leadership and a very stable investment climate. We thank you. In East Africa, we say, Asante Sana.
Asante Sana, Madam PS, and thank you very much, Michael, Phillips, and Humphrey. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this Uganda session.